This is One-on-One. We are pleased to be joined by Barry Bergdoll, who is the Chief Curator of Architecture and Design at the Museum of Modern Art, otherwise known as?
MoMA.
I mean, when people say MoMA, everybody knows, right?
Everybody knows. Everybody wants to get in on the act, you know.
Why? Special place.
That's a good question. It's a special place. You know, it's one of the, I always say there are two places where people want to be and want to be together. They want to be at Starbucks and they want to be at the Museum of Modern Art, even though they can look at all of the work at the Museum of Modern Art online now, with incredible digitization. People want to be near authentic works of art. And I think the really interesting thing that's happening in museums is museums used to be temples. You go in, you get quiet. And now museums are very, very active. People are talking about things, moving around. And we've been trying to think, what does that mean about who the audience is in a museum and what kinds of things can go on there? Museums are changing. Yeah,
well, I beg to differ, though, Barry, because there are three places people like to be. Starbucks, your place.
And your show.
And the WNET studios here at Lincoln Center. I just had to do that. I'm sorry. Hey, come on, let's talk about this new exhibit right here. Foreclosed. Rehousing the American Dream. Bob Morris, you got this? Let me just put this up. You got that, guys? Talk about this exhibit because it's when I was reading about it, I was thinking, they're doing what? It's about architecture, but it's about so much more.
Yeah.
Describe it.
You know, we have a huge shift in philosophy about what we want to do in architecture at MoMA, which is one of the oldest departments, one of the first museums to try to do the almost impossible thing, to bring architecture into the museum. You know, you can't put real buildings in the museum, so what are you showing people? So traditionally, you go into an architecture show, you're seeing a set of masterpieces. You're a little bit mystified. You say, somebody, some curator I don't know, picked these buildings, told me they're masterpieces, told me I'm supposed to stand in front of them reverentially and think, this is great architecture. I don't know why, I haven't learned anything. We wanted to figure out a way that we can turn the museum into a platform for debate about architecture, get people engaged with architecture, but also make people understand the impact that architecture and design has on their everyday lives.
How does the exhibit do that? Give us an example.
We've taken one of the most pressing issues in this country today, the foreclosure crisis. You know, this literally hits home, and everyone is affected. If they themselves have not experienced foreclosure, it could be the house next door. It could be the fear of it. It could be the kind of mystery of what are these financial instruments. It could be watching the financial markets in your house and wondering, am I going to be in my house next week? And so we didn't really want to bring calamity into the museum, but we sort of thought, like I think it's Rahm Emanuel who likes the saying, an opportunity is too, catastrophe is too good of an opportunity to miss. We wanted to say this is actually a chance for us to think about how cities, and in particular suburbs, are built. What's the whole structure of the way things are made? It's not working, it's broken. So we're ready for a national debate about how we build our suburbs, how we live, how we go to work, what's the relationship between where we live, where we work, how we drive. We have an unsustainable model of suburbia, and we can talk about it.
Sorry for interrupting, Barry, 1 second. Let's bring it down to, it's great, that philosophical 25,000-foot level. Let's bring it down to 25 feet.
Okay.
You brought architects together.
Yes.
To do what?
You know, we convened a group of architects. We asked them to put together their dream team.
Right.
Who would you like to work with? What kind of things would you like to think about? And they put together economists, legal specialists, community activists, environmentalists, ecologists, and made a dream team of the type of people they'd like to think about a hard architectural issue with. And then we gave them space at MoMA PS1, provided open studios where they could work, interact with one another, look at one another's projects, how others were trying to solve the similar issue. How could you restructure a town so that it was more economically, ecologically viable? But most importantly, we opened that former schoolhouse up to welcome the public in for open house days, to come in and talk to the architects, see how they're making decisions, and to understand that architecture is actually something about the structure of everyday life. It's not a kind of arrogant thing from on high that comes down and makes decisions behind closed doors, that you could get engaged with this process.
But in Cicero, Illinois, that was a case study in many ways. What did you do there?
In Cicero, Illinois, we had a team led by...
By the way, you know, Cicero, Illinois, famous for something else.
Famous for everything from Al Capone
I was just
to
gonna say
race
Al Capone.
riots. It's got a bad rep.
I'm embarrassed that I know it for Al Capone, but
Right.
go ahead.
Well, we're trying to put Cicero on the map for other
for
reasons.
something better, go ahead.
So that was one of the 5 sites that we studied. It has a high rate of foreclosure. It has a high rate of suburban poverty. It has a great deal of publicly held land that could be developed. Who knows how, maybe with a public-private partnership with all of what that implies. And Jeannie Gang, who's a brilliant architect in Chicago. Jeannie Gang, she's a Chicago architect. She's very interested not only in building, but in landscape issues, how you can take polluted sites and, in a certain sense, reconceive them so they almost cure themselves, kind of redemptive, ecological landscape design. So she got these expertises, plus community activists. They went to Cicero. First thing they saw when they went bungalow to bungalow in Cicero was that all of the doorbells had been rewired. They began to understand that these one-story houses, supposedly one-family houses, had a really much more complex thing going on. That the people who the houses were built for and the people who live there now are not the same. And that was almost a metaphor for us of how we have a one-size-fits-all suburban model, when in fact we know from going out on the ground or from the latest 2010 census that suburbia is a place that is every bit as complex as our city centers.
What kind of reaction have you been getting to the exhibit?
Mixed.
Mixed.
Give
me the downside.
We're touching home, so people say
you're also touching a nerve.
Yeah, we're touching.
Because you're saying the way we're doing it is not working,
exactly,
which is obvious. But you tell people that, they get very uncomfortable.
People get
it's the American dream.
Exactly.
You're messing with the way it's supposed to be.
Exactly, and people don't like it if you say, we might have some better ideas for your house, and developers don't like it if we say there's another way to build. It might be more responsible, etc.
Ecologically and others economically.
Our response is, this is a different moment than, let's say, the great modernist dream of tabula rasa, everything that you're doing up until now is wrong.
Blank slate.
Yeah, we want to, in a sense, enlarge the palette of options. And we think that the museum is a perfect place to show people, oh, that might be an exciting way to live. That could be interesting. These aren't blueprints that we ask people to come up. We ask them to come up with new dream objects. And hopefully they inspire some imaginations. None of them are so fantastic that they couldn't be realized. These people all worked with economists, spreadsheets, the whole thing. If they wanted to change something in a housing situation that's illegal or financially unviable, they had to redesign the financial instruments and redesign the zoning code that would make it possible. So it's a very simultaneously dreaming exhibition, but also very nuts and bolts.
Barry Bergdoll, this is good stuff. The exhibit is called Foreclosed, Rehousing the American Dream. Brought to you by MoMA. That's good stuff. And by the way, how long is the exhibit there?
The exhibit runs through the middle of August. August 13th it closes.
And by the way, folks, this show will be seen before that, after that as well. And go on the MoMA website, which is what?
www.moma.org.
That was easy enough.
Where the whole project is archived. You can go back, you can revisit the workshops, you can hear Secretary Donovan commenting on it, you can visit us with it.
Barry, appreciate it from MoMA. Great brand, but an even better place. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay right there. One-on-one will continue right after this from the Tisch WNET studios.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Adler Aphasia Center, empowering, enhancing, and enriching the lives of people with aphasia and their families. The Russell Berry Foundation, Fedway Associates, Inc., J.H. Cohn, Accountants and Consultants. We turn expertise into results. And by PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.